The Financial Survival Network, helping you to survive and thrive in the new economy. Get your free financial survival toolkit and find out where to buy gold and silver safely at great prices. Sign up at financialsurvivalnetwork.com. This is the Financial Survival Network.
1490 WGCH. This is Kerry Lutz, and you're listening to the Financial Survival Network. One of my favorite bloggers got back on the show, Greg Hunter, USAWatchdog.com. He's amazing. He has vast experience in the mainstream media, as well as branching off on his own several years ago to give us the real story, to let us know what's really happening in the world. And I can't recommend his postings enough. Hey, Greg, welcome back to FinancialSurvivalNetwork.com.
Kerry, good to be here.
And we are so happy you could make it. We've both been having technical issues all day. It must be something to do with the constellations. I don't know. But, man, there is just so much happening in the world. And yet, if you read a mainstream media publication, you know, you would think there's a couple of celebrities that are in trouble and posing with scantily clad or barely covering bikinis, but not much else happening in the world. Do you ever get that feeling?
Do I ever get that feeling? Yeah, I get that feeling all the time. Today they're talking in the USA Today. I used to work for Gannett, incidentally. And they, in the days I worked for them, they paid me in the lower markets to, you know, go out and get people. I mean, I did stories about peeling Ford paint, and I was the first to break the kid killing airbags, and that it wasn't just airbags killing kids. It was airbags in some cars killing kids. And in Hondas, they weren't. And in, General Motors cars of that era, they should have been the most, right? They weren't. They had a pretty good airbag, generally speaking. And some of the other makers, like, for example, the Chrysler minivan of its era, they fixed all that since. All those airbag problems are fixed.
Right.
They had more kids. They had the most, numerically, the most. I thought, well, how can the minivan have more than all of General Motors? I think it was all of General Motors, this one, the Chrysler minivan, the Dodge Chrysler. They fixed that now. I want to make that perfectly clear. But in its day, in the early 90s, when I called up NHTSA, I never will forget it. I said, well, then General Motors should have the most, right? No. Well, the mainstream media reported this as, well, it was kids, just kids in front of airbags. Nobody, that wasn't the case. That unfairly reported for the people who did it right, Honda. It unfairly penalized them, lumped them into everybody else. And now we don't even have that. We don't have any of that reporting.
Yeah, well, look at the Volt. The Chevy Volt was blowing up because you got these lithium-ion batteries, which pack as much energy as a few sticks of dynamite, and they get hit exactly the right way, and they're in these bags, and the things start on fire. And because it's government motors, that was in the news for about 2 or 3 days, and it's gone. And then the other thing, Greg, that gets me, like I can't even begin to tell you, is when there is a story, there is never follow-up. Like, some stories are important enough that you want to go back and figure out what really happened. Like, I'll give you a for instance. Dixon, Illinois, they had this controller, and she was there for 30 years and stole over $53 million. Now, I've been following this story. I filed a Freedom of Information request with the town council, but they've started putting all their reports finally up on the internet, and I've looked through it, and as it turned out, the only thing I could find where she could have stolen was the Capital Funds Project Fund, and nobody has reported back on this. You think that's an important story?
Well, it's a very important story, and, things like Sheriff Joe Arpaio, he comes out and finally says, hey, listen, the birth certificate is a phony. It's a phony, a fraudulent certificate, basically, on a government website. And, you would think that the Washington Post, the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal would, if this guy's a kook, they would do a story and say, oh, no, we hired our own forensic people. It's all online. It's very cheap to do. It's an online story. There's no Freedom of Information Act request, nothing. And poof, it's just like, well, he's doing it because, what they say is that he's doing it because, the Justice Department is looking into racial profiling in Arizona, and that's why he's doing it. And this is a new story. This is a law enforcement agency, and one of the most renowned sheriffs in the country saying what's on a government
former
website
FBI agent,
president
former
is
FBI,
fraudulent. Is a phony.
Yeah. Well, I have to tell you, I don't like get into politics much, but I used to be in the printing business in a past life. Sold out that company a while ago, and I wasn't really knowledgeable. I couldn't be an expert witness in it. But you and I go back long enough. We remember typewriters. Right? Remember a typewriter, and it had keys. And once one of the keys got broken, meaning the letter got broken, it got a slash in it, it never came back. That was it. It typed that way in perpetuity. And yet, on this birth certificate, there's different type sizes, different fonts or type styles. We called them typefaces then. And there are broken letters and unbroken letters. So if you had a broken S or a broken A, which were most common, every time it printed an S or an A, the letter was broken. And yet, unbroken and broken. That is impossible from one typewriter. And that should be the tip-off. But nobody seems to care about what real news is anymore.
But here's my point. My point is, listen, the Wall Street Journal, New York Times, Washington Post, all these people have investigative departments. If this guy's a kook, and I don't know whether he is or not, but if he is, then this should be easy to hold his head under the water and embarrass him, because if he's saying this about the president and it is untrue, that is awful. And my question is this. Listen, if you think that he's doing this because he's politically, payback, then why don't you just do an investigation and nail him to the cross?
Absolutely.
I mean, that's what I want to know. Why? I mean, I'm a small operation. I don't know whether he's telling the truth or not. I suspect he is, but if he is not, then all these news agencies should, they follow around Mitt Romney and the trail of what he made 15 years ago or whatever. And I'm not a fan of the Republicans or Democrats either way, but if you have time to do that, don't you have time to look into what this sheriff is saying and embarrass him if he's false, if he's bringing false witness against the president of the United States, then you should kick his tail literally.
And he should be tossed. The guy should be tossed. All right?
Yes.
He has no business being a sheriff. But instead, what do they do, Greg? They marginalize him, minimize him, and ignore him. And that's
which I find, what is up with that? I mean, this is a guy who has ever in the past said, wow, Ronald Reagan and listen, if Ronald Reagan, if somebody made the charge against him, and I don't want to get into the Democrat and Republican, if somebody made the charge against Bill Clinton, oh, man, they would have come down on them heel and spur. They would embarrass them to where they couldn't be dog catcher. My question is, why aren't they doing it? I don't know whether he's got a fake birth certificate or not. I'm not an investigator. My question is, why isn't the mainstream media doing this?
Because they're no longer media. They don't report.
Yes, isn't that sad?
They're so uncurious. They just take everything that they get from the administration as the truth with no vetting of anything.
That's sad.
And that's the death of the mainstream media that we're talking about, because, hey, it might have helped get Obama elected, but now we're past that, and they've lost all credibility, and people are wondering, who are these people? Whose side are they on? They're not helping you. They don't care about if you lost your job, if your company was shut down because of a government policy and you lost your job. They don't care about you. All they care about are these mythical ratings and, putting the show in the can and going on to the next thing. And it's just disgraceful, and it's a loss of mission. Their mission was to keep the government honest.
Yes, no matter who's in power. Yeah. And I don't care. I'm not a Democrat or a Republican, period. A lot of people think, well, I'm a Republican because I'm down on the Obama administration. No, I'm just down on any administration. If there was a Republican in the White House, people would be calling me a flaming liberal because I'm just after the. Listen, if I started my website after Bush 43 got out of office, I would have questioned the same amount of questions with Bush 43 as I did with Obama. But, Obama is, in terms of the financial sector, this is the third straight year of $1.3 trillion cash deficit. Even the USA Today did some reporting. Of course, they're 4 or 5 months behind John Williams, saying
accidental reporting.
the real gap accounting of our deficit, including everything, commitments to Medicaid, Medicare, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, FHA, everything is $5 trillion a year.
Hey,
not just 1.3 trillion. That's about what it's going to come out, somewhere in that neighborhood. And so, this fiscal cliff. I mean, people like Peter Schiff talk about fiscal cliff. Forget that. I mean, we're talking about the real fiscal cliff is going to be the rise and spike in interest rates, and that's what the game is all about.
And
holding
inflation.
Down interest rates by hook or crook, however they can do it. Print lots of money, buy bonds. And I ask people this about the housing, so-called recovery, which incidentally, they just had the latest Case-Shiller report. And on my site, I took the same press release that ABC and CBS and NBC and Wall Street Journal had. And, their headlines were truthful, but the rest of the story would make you think, wow, we're at a bottom. No, we're not. We have year-over-year declines of about 1%, a little more than 1, a little less than we still have year-over-year declines and 3.5% 30-year money. The housing market should be taking off like a rocket, but it's not. So what are they really doing? They're holding interest rates down by whatever means they can. And what happens when rates, I ask people this, and they just look at me like this.
Oh, can I tell you
what
what
happens when
happen?
Rates go back up to 6 or 7%?
Their historic norm. That's the historic norm. 5 to 6% is
Sure.
the historic mean. And I can tell you exactly what is going to happen without even thinking about it. You will see another 30 to 40% hit on housing. And if Wall Street in the Northeast stops laying its golden eggs, New York, except for marginal areas, has only seen a 10 to 20% reduction in prices, unlike the rest of the country.
They got most of the bailout money.
Oh, of course. Hey, I'm not making any excuses for why. I don't think it's got to do with market fundamentals. It's got to do with the TARP money and the bailout money and that $16 trillion that's printed and just sent out one way and, keep it afloat. And all they're doing is keeping the banking system up. They're not helping you. They don't care about you if you're underwater. All they care about is keeping these too big to fails up, and semi-functioning as zombies.
They're protecting those mortgage-backed securities, and they have a ton of them. I mean, Kerry, the problem is so bad, and this is what the mainstream media will not address. They changed the accounting rules in 2009. Now, not just for the banks, but all of them. But the banks were the biggest, beneficiary of changing the accounting rules, which allows them to value these mortgage-backed securities and real estate on their books at whatever they think they can get for them in the future. Now, who can do that? That's like me having this pen, and I say, hey, in the future, I think this pen would be worth $100,000 in the year 2045. It'll be an antique. Well, my bottom line looks pretty good. I don't have to make much money right? And so they paid bonuses. They had all this stuff. And aren't you hearing, and I'm going to turn this around back on you because we talk to a lot of people. Aren't you getting this vibration with the people you're talking about? I mean, about financial collapse, some sort of coming calamity, something coming up. And I don't mean the norm. I mean, I had somebody on my YouTube channel say, oh, you just want a crash so bad you can taste it. No, that's what the math is. Are you hearing the same thing I'm hearing?
Who would ever want that? That is, I mean, we could be talking about Mad Max when that happens if everything falls apart all at once. But yeah, I mean, people
You're hearing
are
the same
concerned.
thing.
Yeah, of course. There's a large portion of the population, especially in the area where I live, they just don't, most of the population will not accept the possibility that the collapse is coming and that they need to prepare, that you need to buy gold and silver, that you need to stock some necessary items in case there's supply disruptions. I mean, we're only 15 meals away from 15 days away from starvation in any given place if you haven't prepared. So, yeah, I mean, people are in complete denial over it. I was in Vegas at Freedom Fest a couple weeks back, and everybody's there just like they're partying like it's 1999, except that it's 2012, and the world has changed, and they're not prepared or willing to accept it.
I was talking to my sister-in-law, sweet woman, And even in their church, they're talking about 2012 and about, end of days. And I told her, I said, you know what? I don't know about end of days and whether or not, a solar flare is going to knock us out or the whole earth's going to change. Or I don't know anything about that. But I will tell you that on the math, the economy is terrible. 700 trillion is what the BIS says. A little more than 700 trillion in derivatives. I mean, they grew by 100 trillion last year, and the real number, people say that's understated by at least half.
Yeah, it's way over that.
It's way over adjusted. That. This is a deflationary unwind, and they're trying to, throw money into it as it wants to keep it from unwinding, and then you're going to get in. This is Crazyville. This has never happened in human history. There's never been this much debt issued on the planet. There probably hasn't been this much debt issued on the planet from the beginning of time up until 2000. Yeah. It's unbelievable. I'm sure it's hundreds of trillions of dollars in derivatives, unbacked, unregulated, and that's what's frightening in terms of the financial system. And then you have, no way for Biederman was telling me, Charles Biederman, no way for you can't. There's not enough tax collection. There's not going to be enough tax collection to pay for the government programs. This is bad on the math of it. So on the math of it, I just say, I don't want a crash to happen. I want just the opposite. But if we are going to have a crash, and I am a journalist as are you, shouldn't you warn people? You may want to pad your hand without being, the sky is falling. That's why I try to link to everything. I try to, like my real estate story I did. I used the same press release they did. I got a completely different story. I mean,
because you're not agenda driven.
I could back it up with a press release. Read it for yourself.
But
yet, the mainstream media spun this idea that the second straight month of growth. Who looks at their house? I made more money this month. Year over year is the way you look at that, and it's declining. Absolutely. Anyway, it's sad. I guess what I'm saying is that people are in the dark. I'll bet you if you ask 100 people, you might get one that says, "Oh yeah, there's something wrong with the economy." It's pretty dire.
If you're lucky. Greg, if you're lucky, I mean, there were 2,500 of us at Freedom Fest, and we're kind of like 2,500 people that get it. Different people think it's going to take different amounts of time, 2-3 years. Some think we have 10 years.
I think it's a process.
But everybody gets that we're heading in the wrong direction, and there's no turning back. And yet, everybody around us, they're coming there for the weekend. They're living just for the day. And like you said, the information is there. They're just ignoring it. They're not reading your website. They're not reading mine. They're not reading Biederman's website. They need to be going to these places and learning about it. And I figure, hey, if we pick off some people here and there, we've done our job. Eventually they'll tell their friends, and more people will get attuned to it, because everybody knows, Greg, everybody knows people who can't find jobs, who are barely subsisting. They're living on the EBT cards. Everybody knows them. And for those people, for that 25% of the population, things are getting worse, or they're already intolerable. And we just got to hope that there's not another 25% that joins them.
Wasn't there a report out that said that 100,000 people were below the poverty line? Now, our poverty line is different than the poverty line in Pakistan or in India. But still, I mean, that even if it's half, let's say they're off by half, let's say 50 million people.
Yeah, 16%.
That's a huge number.
Yeah, and it's increased. It's gone way up. So Greg, USA Watchdog, how long have you been doing it for? USAWatchdog.com.
I was on this month, at the end of this month in 2009. And, Kerry, it was so sad. I spent hours, I still spend hours writing a piece and having all kinds of links to make sure people could read it and go, oh, here's this source, here's this. I wanted it to be actionable. I want people to know it's real, that the information is as real as I can get. I'm not saying I don't make mistakes, but I try not to, and I try to link to everything. But since 2000, I'd have 10 or 15 people. Now in a good month, I get 200,000 readers. I've just now started putting up videos in the last, 4 or 5 months. I've got about 300 views on YouTube. Excellent. On these videos. Some people rather listen to a video. But anyway,
most of the world. You were in television journalism. You know that it's a visual society, and people want to see the news. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. But they want to see the network news less and less because it's lost credibility. And you know.
But you know what we're supposed to do as journalists? I don't, you have to edit. You can't put on everything in the world. People say, well, you're only going to do a 2-minute soundbite. Yeah, I'm going to interview for 20. Yeah, you're right, because I can't put your soundbite on for 20 minutes and their soundbite on for 20 minutes, and I can't do that. So I have to pick the information I think most and best represents what it is you're saying, for 30 seconds or whatever, because I don't get that much time. And we're supposed to boil things down and tell people, hey, look out for this. I do a weekly news wrap-up every week. And I probably spend, 6, 7, 8 hours on that the day I do it. I look at all the stuff. I look at all the stories. I look at it during the week. I post most of the stories on my weekly news wrap-up, and I boil it down. And I'll tell you, and we haven't touched on this, but the Middle East,
it's ugly.
I mean, the Syria thing, listen, Iran has figured out if Syria goes down,
they're going too.
They're going. That's where the battle is, I think. And where's Armageddon? North of Israel, south of Jordan, the Valley of Armageddon. Yeah, I mean, Russia is putting their Marines there. China's got ships out there. Russia has ships out there. NATO, the U.S., the Great Britain, the U.S. is backing, through their allies, backing through, Saudi Arabia and Jordan and Turkey. And I think the battle, everybody's looking, wait till they, bomb Israel, wait till Israel bombs Iran, or the other way around. I mean, both countries have said, I try not to take sides on either one. But I'm telling you, what I want to warn people about is Syria. I think Russia has drawn a line in the sand. There was a report out today that Iran sent their top envoy to Syria. They're seen together. I think China is also strong, completely behind the Syrian regime, whether you like them or not, whether you think Assad's a good guy or not. What we're setting up for is, we have the Sunnis, which are the rebels, which are partly Al-Qaeda. And then you have the Shia, which are Russia, China, and partly Hezbollah. And woo, what an ugly, ugly little scenario taking shape. I mean, Kofi Annan said, I quit. I'm done. Nobody wants, and he basically said nobody wants to have peace. Hey. That to me was like, Kofi Annan, former UN General Secretary, threw in the towel, a week or so ago, week and a half ago. That's bad.
Well, it reminds me, and we got to conclude, but it reminds me of those famous words that Rodney King uttered during the L.A. riots. Why can't we all just get along? And it just makes no sense. The people really don't want to be killing one another. It's competing crime syndicates who want the goods from the Middle East, and that's what it all comes down to. If
that goes off, let me tell you, I within a few days, the financial system with these derivatives will unwind. That goes off.
Everyone's financial system, regardless of what the country.
There are going to be, I don't care who you like.
No safe havens.
The Iranian or the Israeli or the U.S. or the Russian. I don't care who you like. If this goes off, the entire world will lose.
Oh, yeah. Well, all we can do is hope. It's not going to happen. Anyway, Greg, hey, thanks so much for being on FinancialSurvivalNetwork.com. Go to USAWatchdog.com to get the latest scoop from Greg. And you can see this interview as well as others I've done with Greg and many other financial luminaries around the world. Greg, we'll talk to you again soon. You be well.
Thank you, sir.
All right.